Indian law and policy practice, Robbins Kaplan, LLP, seeks to redefine excellence for high-stakes litigation in Indian country. They have worked hand in hand with tribes to implement the Tribal Law and Order Act, fighting against diminishment of tribal lands and natural resources, and improving public safety on reservations. The Robbins Kaplan American Indian Law and Policy Practice serves tribes and individuals on commercial, government investigations, agency and tribal boundary disputes, as well as personal injury. Founded and led by former United States Attorneys Brendan Johnson and Tim Purdon, their American Indian Law and Policy Practice exists to bring justice to tribal clients whose claims in the past have been dismissed or ignored due to their underdog status. If you or your tribe are facing legal issues, contact robinskaplan.com or call toll-free at 1-800-553-9910.
Hey man, are you going to the vaccination party after school?
True that. What are you guys talking about? What party?
Oh hey, there's gonna be a party soon for anyone who's vaccinated. A lot of people are gonna be there. Bro, you should definitely go get vaccinated. It's like a shield against COVID.
I don't know. I'm not so sure.
Do us a favor and get vaccinated, bruh. We'll even go with you.
Come on, it's gonna be all good. Once you get vaccinated, we can go to the party together.
This message is brought to you by McGee Communications and Minnesota Department of Health.
Minnesota has the only original wolf population in the continental United States, and 80% of Minnesotans believe the wolf should be protected. Howling for Wolves is asking Minnesotans to respect our true wildlife manager, the wolf. Their survival is critical to our ecosystems, our communities, and even our economy. As highly intelligent animals with strong social bonds, Minnesota wolves deserve to be protected and admired. Learn more at howlingforwolves.org. Let's live and let howl.
Hey, Ogama, I've been hearing a lot about this term, climate justice. What is that?
Climate justice is recognizing that the negative impacts of climate change don't affect all people equally. It also means transitioning from a fossil fuel-based economy to a more sustainable future. MN350 is one of the groups that's pushing for this transition to protect our futures. You can even get involved too.
That's great, especially since I'm concerned about pipeline projects like Line 3. How can I help MN350?
Just find them on Facebook or visit mn350.org.
With a look at your AM 950 weather, I'm Patrick Lulia. Rain and snow possible tonight with a low of 34, then partly sunny skies on Wednesday with a high of 54. Enjoy some revolutionary Cuban cooking at Victor's 1959 Cafe on Grand Avenue in South Minneapolis. Now open for breakfast and lunch with takeout and delivery still available too. More at victors1959cafe.com.
Portions of Native Roots Radio may be pre-recorded.
It's a good day to be indigenous.
Get up, stand up.
They are going to become more brutal.
Couldn't cut, hitting cut again.
Because all the hippies were trying to be Indians anyway.
They're going to become more repressive because it's a matter of dollars and their illusionary concepts of power.
Hey, Victor.
We must live in balance with the earth.
And also with recent happenings at Wounded Knee.
I am awake. Hey, Cuddy, all my friends and relatives in four directions. You're listening to Native Roots Radio Presents I'm Awake, and I'm your host, Wakanja Hade. We discuss local and national Native news and events, and as you know, Native issues are human issues, and human issues are Native issues.
This portion of the show is brought to you by Native Roots Trading Post. We're located at 700 Nicollet Avenue in Minneapolis, inside the Dayton's building.
Wow. Hey, Wendy, I see you're somewhere else.
I am somewhere else.
Yeah, exactly. And we have our general manager of Native Roots Trading Post on today, and she's a young warrior that does so much for the community, is in the community. I want Misko to introduce herself and talk a little bit about the store and how excited things are there. Welcome, Misko.
Hello, I'm just going to introduce myself in my language real quick. Bonjour, indeno tagnag, genoin miningwa, Bonjour, indeno tagnag, misko gimiwan indishnakas, mako endo dame, waswakinig nindunjaba. I almost started saying a prayer there, but hello, my relatives. My name is Misko Gimiwan. I'm 20 years old. I'm general manager for Native Roots Trading Post. I also work at the Indian Center with the language, and I still work at the Enda Young Native Youth Emergency Youth Care Center. So I'm so grateful to be here and glad that, you've allowed me to come and talk on here.
Well, we really appreciate you, and you're part of Wendy and ours and Native Roots Radio, especially. Our whole why we're around is to support Native people and also get people like yourself support. And I really appreciate what you've been doing at the store, and what you do in the community is just a beautiful thing. So we're lucky to have you. Talk a little bit about the store and then some surprises and who's been showing up. What's been going on here this week and a half?
Yeah, so last week we had Winona LaDuke bring in some books that she signed. So we had about, I think, like 20 to 30 books. I can't remember the number, but it was a lot of books that she signed. And so we had those in stock. We also had her pasta, her hemp pasta that she grows. And today we had an activist and co-founder of AIM, Clyde Belcourt, come in, and it was really nice to meet him in person and have him come down and do a book signing. It was an impromptu book signing, but it was really great to have him here today and to, speak with him. And he's a very well respected elder of ours.
Yeah, Clyde, and a few. He's one of the few left of the American Indian movement that started here, and he's 84 years old, and it was just great to see him. I know you got a picture with him. What does that mean to a young warrior? And let me just tell you a quick story, Misko and Wendy. And my relatives were not proud to be Indians in the 60s until they would say they're Mexican, they would say they're Italian, they would say everything but the inner city natives, until the American Indian movement knocked down doors and made it proud for us to be Indians. And I think that's been one of their big legacies, Misko.
Yeah, so I actually got to learn a lot about Clyde Belcourt and AIM through the American Indian Studies programs that I've been throughout high school and college. So to actually see him in person was amazing because him and the people that he grew up with were the ones that paved the way for us to be proud of who we are and for us to do the things that we're doing. So they were on the front lines, they were on the ground, they were doing the work. Enough for us today to, be proud of who we are and showcase on social media who we are, showcase to the world that this is me, this is who I am. And they're the ones that changed the narrative for us to be proud of who we are. And, they showed their resilience and they showed their strength and they fought with, their flesh and their words and their minds, and just to learn about who they are and actually meet them in person means a lot to me because it means they're real people. They're here. They're born here. They're raised here in Minneapolis, Minnesota, and that's where I live. That's where I'm from. And so to have someone who's like that still around and, still able to share their story is amazing.
Yeah, that is amazing, and I always look up to Uncle Clyde and the things that he did. Uh, you're absolutely right, and I think one of the things that he's proud of when I've talked to him is people like yourself that have learning the language, the culture, and just a few generations ago, we fought and a lot of us lost our culture and our way. But to see young people like yourself, Misko, take on that role and really makes people like Clyde happy because of what they did and what they fought for. You're the outcome of all their hard work.
Thank you for that.
Definitely. Hey, so what else do you do? Because you're like one of the busiest people I know on the planet here. Tell us a little bit what else is going on with what other things you're doing, I should say.
Okay, yeah. Like I mentioned before, I'm working here at the American Indian Center, the Minneapolis American Indian Center on Franklin, and my role here is the language intern coordinator. So what that means is I'm searching for 5 Dakota and 5 Ojibwe language students who are college level, who are looking for experience in working with the language. So students who are looking forward to being teachers of the language. And so it's a really great opportunity because all they have to do is come up with a project in regards to the language that they want to do for the community or themselves. So they can come up with their own timeline. The timeline that I have for them is from January until June of 2022, but I'm recruiting right now so that we can, plan their project and for it to get started. And then at the end, they'll get a $200 stipend for completing the project that they want to do. And we'll also have a recognition and honoring song at one of our Minneapolis American Indian Center powwows. And so it's a really great opportunity for them to work with language instructors, work with their skills in the language, and create a project for the community that they can complete on their own. And I already have a few people who registered, and some of the projects they came up with is working with the children in the schools or working with children. Another one is creating TikTok videos, and another one is just working with the language instructors as one of their assistants. So it's really up to the person on what they want to do in this internship, and it's to me personally, it's a great opportunity.
Yeah, that sounds great. And it's funny that when you're talking, do you remember when we went to Hamilton and everyone thought you were a teacher?
Yeah.
Well, you have become that teacher and that educator through language and what you do, Misko. Wendy and I are so proud to know you and to support you, right, Wen?
Absolutely. We are just thrilled that you're there at the store every day for a few hours in the morning to just make sure that the day is going to go smooth and that everybody knows what they're doing, and just keeping things organized for us. So thank you so much. We really appreciate it.
For sure. And to be able to create art while I'm at the store, to teach about our history and represent who we are, it's such an honor because, we need this kind of things. And I'm so grateful for you guys for all the work you've put in to make this happen.
Wow. And we've done it with you and for you, and we're just excited that you're part of the team. And really, Wendy, we're just excited to know Misko. And
Oh, absolutely.
wow,
Thank
thanks,
you so
Misko.
much.
We'll see you tomorrow at work. And thank you so much for stopping by, Pinigigi.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Pinigigi Miigwech. Talk to you later.
All right, cool. Wow, that was awesome, Wendy. Misko is just a unbelievable young person. Don't you agree? Okay, you're muted. So I'm going to end the segment. We'll be right back after this short break.
When we heal from our traumas,
when we face our fears,
let go of our addictions,
when we relearn our values,
when we live our teachings,
respecting our elders,
cherishing and honoring our children,
when we honor and take care of our spirit,
there will be no room left for sexual violence.
Sponsored by the Minnesota Indian Women's Sexual Assault Coalition.
Hey, Ogama, I've been hearing a lot about this term, climate justice. What is that?
Climate justice is recognizing that the negative impacts of climate change don't affect all people equally. It also means transitioning from a fossil fuel-based economy to a more sustainable future. MN350 is one of the groups that's pushing for this transition to protect our futures. You can even get involved too.
That's great, especially since I'm concerned about pipeline projects like Line 3. How can I help MN350?
Just find them on Facebook or visit mn350.org.
Aho, relatives. My name is George McCauley, Omaha Nation. I'm a citizen of the Omaha Nation in Nebraska. As we head into wintertime, many of us will be back together indoors. It's important to make sure you receive your COVID booster shot. Older Americans are more at risk for complications for COVID-19. All 3 COVID vaccine boosters have been approved. Find a vaccine site by calling 651-304-9986 or go to vaccineconnector.mn.gov.
If you're hurting in your relationship or have been affected by sexual violence, you're not alone. Strong Hearts Native Helpline can help you through these difficult and uncertain times. Strong Hearts Helpline is a free 24/7 confidential domestic dating and sexual violence helpline for Native Americans. Help is available by calling 1-844-762-8483 or by clicking on the Chat Now icon on strongheartshelpline.org. This message is sponsored by the National Indigenous Women's Resource Center.
Hi, I'm Jane Fonda, and you're listening to Native Roots Radio.
Hey, welcome back to Native Roots Radio Presents I'm Awake, and I'm your host, Robert Pilot.
This portion of the show is brought to you by the Minnesota Indian Women's Sexual Assault Coalition.
Yeah, Wendy, we got a guest here, and she's in the bullpen right now, and hopefully she'll... there she is. Awesome. We have an awesome guest here, and what I would love to do is have you introduce yourself to our audience all over Turtle Island. We're in Chicago, we're in Madison, we're in the Twin Cities, and of course we're on YouTube and Facebook all over Turtle Island, and we're really proud to have this next guest. Would you please introduce yourself?
Absolutely. Hi, everyone. My name is Amani Batasso, and I use she, her, hers pronoun. I am a lifelong organizer, a progressive Democrat, and a campaign professional. And I am also a human rights and democracy defender. And currently, actually, I am running to seek the support of the folks in the 4th Congressional District. I am running for Congress as a Democrat. And one of the top priorities for my campaign and why I jumped into the race is I want to make sure that we're really prioritizing economic, racial, and environmental justice with the lens of acknowledging that those who are most impacted disproportionately are folks who are Black, Brown, and our Indigenous communities. And so I believe that it was time to have folks that were going to center those issues and prioritize those issues. But I do want to say that I'm thrilled to be here on Native Roots Radio because I want to be able to engage in a meaningful conversation with all of you, considering that it's a really important month. It is the Native American Heritage Month, and so I'm so grateful for the opportunity to meet you both and to engage in a meaningful conversation.
Well, can you? We're really happy to have you on. Can you tell everybody who's where your district is? Because again, we have people in Chicago and Madison.
Yeah. So with the 4th Congressional District is Ramsey County and some parts of Washington County. And I currently live in St. Paul, so I'm a proud St. Paulite. And so if you live in those two areas, that would be the district. And the current representative for that district is Representative McCollum. And so.
Yeah, and that's where Wendy and I live, and Wendy's in New York right now, but we live in the St. Paul area, and I know Betty has been in there for a long time, and before Betty was who was before Betty? It was for a long time. Go ahead.
It's been 21 years.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's hard to break that cycle. So what are the things that you differ from Betty McCollum, or do you prefer to run just on your own as opposed to against somebody on your own values?
That's an excellent question. And so I am a believer, right? We've seen a lot over time. And we know that Washington has a lot of problems. We can't even mention a few, but I am a progressive. I have been organizing with folks up and down the ballot from city council to the recently the presidential race. I was the regional organizing director on the coordinated campaign and, worked alongside my community. I think it's the work of everybody really that ensured that we delivered on this 2020 victory. And I believe that the politics as usual, right? We're talking about politics of maintaining the status quo where we know that there are issues, right, impacting folks. We know that folks are struggling to make ends meet. We know that there's more that we can do to combat a lot of the issues that are impacting a lot of our folks, especially via environmental or climate crisis that we know a lot of major corporations have had a large part in partaking in, right? And so knowing that all of these issues exist and for us not to have leadership in Congress prioritize these issues and actually deliver a win, right? And I, for the longest time, felt as though, we can't just be progressives on paper. We actually have to get some wins in for working class families. We have to get in some wins for our Black, Brown, and Indigenous communities. And I happen to believe that, one of the biggest commitments I made in this race is to take no corporate money, right? It's working class money. And I know this is a whole different topic, but we know that who sends you to Washington is just as critical. Do you have the guts to actually stand up to these fossil fuel industries, right? To these major corporate interests that are, partaking in a lot of issues that are impacting a lot of us. And so my candidacy is about a bold new vision that I happen to also think isn't so new, because we have a lot of partners and coalition groups that have been moving this work on environmental, racial, and economic justice. But what we need is a partner in Washington that is going to get some wins in and do so in a bold and unapologetic way.
Yeah, Wendy and I are both progressives, and we really, of course, fighting the pipelines and big oil, and we were big Bernie fans, and I mean, legitimately. And then also, Wendy talks about our sacred animals in each show, or almost every show, and that's our relatives that are four-legged, and one in particular. I just have to bring this up, Wendy, is that we're fighting the slaughter of our relatives, the wolves, and how can you really put something like that out in the forefront? Because we have a couple senators that really don't mind if they were delisted or kill them, and they're supposed Democrats here.
Right. And so we need folks who come from, Native American community, Indian community, and folks who are indigenous to this land to be elected to the United States Senate, to the United States Congress, because we know representation is crucial, and it's about, ensuring that there's somebody with a lived experience that could speak to those issues. But I think other than that, right, we need somebody that is able to really engage in meaningful dialogue about what kind of issues are actually impacting our Native American and Indian communities. And I think what is lacking now is the bold interest in actually having that conversation, because I don't think folks who are in Washington are going to know what the solutions are, but I know that there are folks who have been at the forefront of this work for the longest time. And I think it's through their voice and through their advisory. There's a lot more that we could be doing. And that's what I mean by like being a partner and an ally, right? You're not coming in saying, I've got all the answers, I've got all the solutions, but you need to know that if you are a representative, you are representing that community, that district, and that country. And so it is your job to be the servant. And that happens when you're able to say, there are issues that exist, and there are folks who can attest and bear witness to that issue. And it's time we actually address that crisis. And so that's, I think, what's missing, right? When we talk to a lot of these elected officials, is that they come in with a lot of advice that they get from lobbyists or folks who are their paid consultants, and it gets lost in translation. And I think it's so critical when I think about what kind of leadership or what kind of like public service endeavor I want to be a part of. It is one that is always inviting for that partnership, because I do think our Native American communities, our Indian communities know what the solutions are. We just have to listen, show up, and actually deliver.
Right, exactly. Hey, before I forget, we only got about 3 minutes left. Can you get your website, or how we can follow you or support you? Put that out there, or your Facebook.
Yeah.
And,
Absolutely. And so I it's been 2 months, right? And I say that our campaign is just beginning. And so folks can go to Amane for Congress. It's AMANE. Can I drop it in the chat, or is that no? So it's Amane for Congress, AMANE FOR Congress. It's the same for our Twitter is Amane, but also for Congress. Our Instagram is Amane, but also for Congress. And so my first and last name. And sign up. You'll definitely hear more from us. I am the candidate that really wants to not just talk about championing a lot of issues that I just shared on environmental justice and racial and economic justice, but somebody who believes that now is the time to be in partnership. Now is the time to actually deliver for our folks. And so make sure that you're signing up and just follow us. But this won't be the only time that you guys will hear from me, was what I wanted to say. because I know it's a short segment, but I am honored to be here.
Well, we're excited, and it's getting to be that time of year, right, Wendy? We got like 2 minutes left. Wendy, do you have a question at all?
No, I don't have a question. I would thank you, Robert, for bringing up, my passion for animals and advocacy for animals. And I have to say, Betty has been a champion for animals. We have, I'm a state council member. We're called a humane volunteer, policy volunteer leader for the Humane Society of the United States. So we work on and we lobby for animal issues all over the United States. And we actually have a scorecard that we keep, and we are able to look to see all our representatives and how they've actually voted on animal issues. And I often go to that scorecard if I'm having trouble deciding on a candidate, because I know that the candidate that I would want would be a champion for animals, and of course the earth and the environment and the air and the water as well. But since my passion is animals, that's one thing that's very important for me.
Awesome.
But I'm really happy that you're here today.
Thank you. And I appreciate you saying that, because, I'm a Democrat and the Congresswoman is a Democrat as well. And so you could say on about, 80%, we agree on a lot of things. And so,
absolutely.
Yeah,
that's great. Thank you so much.
Well, we're always excited to have young new politicians on our show, and we can't wait to have you on again. And that's what we're all about, is promoting in a good way what we can with our relatives, our allies. And so I can't wait to have you on again. This is really cool. I appreciate you just being on a short segment, and we'll try and get you on for a couple segments so we can dig deeper. But really
I would love that.
Stay in touch with us, and whatever way we can support you. That's great. So you're listening to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and up next, Nancy Beaulieu of MN 350. We'll be right back.
Stay with us.
Hey, Wendy, what are we doing for dinner after the show?
How about we go to J. Selby's on 169 Victoria Street in St. Paul? They have a delicious plant-based menu that's compassionate and environmentally sustainable.
I'm getting their spot-on vegan Big Mac, the dirty secret.
You can pick up and they deliver within a 5-mile radius, or you can call them at 651-222-3263 or visit jselbys.com.
Well, you sold me, Wen. Let's go order at J. Selby's tonight.
I'm hungry.
Minnesota has the only original wolf population in the continental United States, and 80% of Minnesotans believe the wolf should be protected. Howling for Wolves is asking Minnesotans to respect our true wildlife manager, the wolf. Their survival is critical to our ecosystems, our communities, and even our economy. As highly intelligent animals with strong social bonds, Minnesota wolves deserve to be protected and admired. Learn more at howlingforwolves.org. Let's live and let howl.
For too long, American Indian tribes have faced a competitive disadvantage when litigating against powerful forces. With its American Indian law and policy practice, Robbins Kaplan, LLP, seeks to redefine excellence for high-stakes litigation in Indian country. They have worked hand in hand with tribes to implement the Tribal Law and Order Act, fighting against diminishment of tribal lands and natural resources, and improving public safety on reservations. The Robbins Kaplan American Indian Law and Policy Practice serves tribes and individuals on commercial, government investigations, agency and tribal boundary disputes, as well as personal injury. Founded and led by former United States Attorneys Brendan Johnson and Tim Purdon, their American Indian Law and Policy Practice exists to bring justice to tribal clients whose claims in the past have been dismissed or ignored due to their underdog status. If you or your tribe are facing legal issues, contact robinskaplan.com or call toll-free at 1-800-553-9910.
Crooner's Supper Club has some great ways you can experience a delicious dinner and the best jazz music in the Twin Cities. Enjoy mouth-watering dinner selections like the prime rib and crusted walleye, along with fabulous cocktails in one of Crooner's unique music venues. The main stage with state-of-the-art sound and lights, and the Dunsmore Room with its large picture windows overlooking Moore Lake. So make your next night out memorable with a delicious dinner and top-notch jazz at Crooner's, just north of 694 off Highway 65. More at croonersmn.com.
This is Santita Jackson. Monday through Friday, 6 to 8 a.m. Central, we'll bring you the best progressive talkers, thinkers, and doers on AM 950, Minnesota's progressive voice.
The future of car shopping is here right now at Rudy Luther Toyota with Luther Direct. It's car shopping without ever leaving your home. Go to rudyluthertoyota.com and click on Luther Direct. Choose any vehicle in Rudy Luther Toyota's current inventory, either new or certified pre-owned. Then find out what kind of value you get for your trade-in, review a payment plan you qualify for and customize it, and then set up a time for Rudy Luther to drop off your new vehicle and pick up your trade-in. It's that simple. Your new vehicle without any of the hassle. Check out Luther Direct today at rudyluthertoyota.com.
Now, more than ever, we are being faced daily with the topic of human mortality. And for many people, estate planning has been top of mind. Getting your estate planning done now can be easy and cost-effective. Schroman Law offers virtual options for initial consultations so that new clients can safely initiate the process. With many facing uncertain financial situations, Schroman Law also offers affordable fees for legal documents. Learn more at schromanlaw.com. That's SCHROMEN law.com.
With a look at your AM 950 weather, I'm Patrick Lulia. Rain and snow possible tonight with a low of 34, then partly sunny skies on Wednesday with a high of 54. Enjoy some revolutionary Cuban cooking at Victor's 1959 Cafe on Grand Avenue in South Minneapolis. Now open for breakfast and lunch with takeout and delivery still available too. More at victors1959cafe.com.
This is Winona LaDuke of Honor the Earth, and you're listening to Native Roots Radio. I'm awake.
We are Calusa Nation.
Hey, welcome back to Native Roots Radio Presents I'm Awake, and I'm your host, Robert Pilot.
This portion of the show is brought to you by MN350, grassroots organization fighting for climate justice.
Hey, Wendy, I know you were a little FOMO yesterday. I was with Winona LaDuke and her gang, and we were at the concert for James Taylor and Jackson Brown, who's a good friend of Winona's. And today that Jackson Brown's a big friend of Clyde Belcourt, too. I just heard. So that was cool.
That's very cool. How was the concert?
You know what? It was really good. And it was really chill. I guess I'm getting old and I'm digging the chill stuff, right?
Yeah. They're both pretty chill artists. So, but I love them both. You know, I mean, we grew up on them. So, yeah.
I didn't realize James Taylor talked about right after John Belushi OD'd, he sobered up and has been sober ever since. And that was I really didn't know that. So he's been sober almost 40 years.
That's unbelievable. That's fantastic.
Well, speaking of fantastic, Wendy, we got Nancy Beaulieu of Bemidji 350 on the line, and it's always exciting to hear from Nancy. And I know she's keeping on top of things. Biden was in town here, and so welcome, Nancy Beaulieu.
Well, Beaulieu, and it's always a pleasure to be here. And yeah, I didn't get the opportunity to go chase down Biden, but I have a greater opportunity at the moment, and that's being in a space working on our treaty alliance moving forward. From the treaty people gathering and all the spaces that we've held, defending our treaties and clean water. So. I want to take this moment to, again, give a shout out to our camps that are still out there, because there are many threats to the water. This is more than a pipeline. It's about defending our treaties and our basic right to clean water. And so once I hang up from this call and if you look in the chat, I'm going to share the links to the camps that are still out there, and I ask our listeners far and wide to continue to support that work. And I also want to note that today is Giving Tuesday for Give to the Max, and I will also share that link. And that is the work that we're doing at Minnesota 350, Robert. And so what we're doing is taking a look at what the future looks like as we see the construction on Line 3 being complete. We know our work is not done. We still need to stop Line 3. We still need to defend our treaties and remind the people that we're here and we're always going to be here, and that we're learning how to fight this systemic oppression that uses tools and acts and all those things to hold us back. And so I think holding the space in the Treaty Alliance and that work forward has just been a beautiful experience moving this forward.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, how can we find MN 350 and support your treaty work for today and every day?
All right. Well, I do want to share, our Give to the Max link. And then what we're going to do at Minnesota 350, we're going to revisit our treaty work. And this is what I want to share tonight at Minnesota 350. Our work is centered around what does the transition for environmental and racial justice look like based around treaty obligations. So currently at the Bemidji 350 office chapter, we are revisiting our work, and what we decided to do was create a hub for the Minnesota 350 Treaty Rights campaign that is led by Native Americans here in Minnesota, and we're excited to dig deep into conversation, consideration, and planning to create a community of healing and environmental and racial justice based around those treaty obligations. So land back is important to our work moving forward. And we know, because we are strong, we're resilient, and we have a beautiful story to share, that our treaty work will ripple throughout Minnesota and across the U.S. And we want to continue to write that shared future together as treaty people, build on community, and show the world that we can coexist in treaty relationships collectively and respectfully. And then treaties were, again, intended for us to live as good neighbors and good stewards of Mother Earth. And so Minnesota history, actually United States history and treaty obligation bind us all together as treaty people. And this is our shared history. So because the history books don't talk about it, we need to start talking about that. And we need to control the narrative. And I think moving a lot of this work forward after Line 3 is really critical to our Native people across Turtle Island. It's just more than one treaty. There's so many out there. And then we have to remind our listeners and our treaty partners that treaties are very much alive today as the day they were signed, and that treaties can protect all of us. But first, we must realign ourselves with the natural law and stand in solidarity to defend the treaties, because when we stand together, Robert, we don't stand alone. So
Yeah.
I want to share those links.
Yeah, please do. It looks like you just popped them up there, huh? Stop Line 3. No. So what does that mean to somebody that's listening to the show in Chicago or Madison or even the Twin Cities? What is that are clueless about the treaties that have been signed and that are the supreme law? How many treaties are not being followed by the government?
There's not one treaty being followed by the government, and that's one. We refer to them being on stolen land, and there's truth to that, Robert. And there's so many misconceptions about the treaty. One of them being, well, it was not my fault. That happened so long ago. But the huge misconception is that treaties are an artifact of the past. But if your house, land, or your business is on any part of American soil, you are in some treaty land somewhere out there, and it's in your respectful way to reach out to those tribes that are in those areas and ask how you can help defend those treaties, because we're all treaty people. So sharing our story here in Minnesota, we hope that we encourage other treaty people across Turtle Island to do the same work, because we have to rise together. And can you imagine if all the tribes came together and how powerful and beautiful that would be? And I think we're starting to see our people starting to awaken and call out truth. And I think this is our opportunity in history, and the time is now. So we have to act on it. And we're calling out to our non-native allies as well to put some work into that, put some truth into it, and defend those treaties, because again, treaties protect all living things, Robert, and we have to realign ourselves to the natural law and what it looks like to be in those respectful coexistence type of relationship. So there's so many good things you can do. I would suggest people in the next couple of weeks, once we revisit our page and refreshen our treaty rights campaign at Minnesota, jump in when we're ready to share that shortly here in the future, and find out ways you can engage in our work or use our work to kind of create their own work. And so we're willing to help people if they reach out.
Wow, yeah, that's powerful. I really feel I'm 60 years old, and I really feel like in a lot of there's been a lot of disappointment these last 2 years with our politicians, but on the other side of that, there's been a lot of really good things too that haven't happened, didn't happen, and are happening for us natives. And whether it's a TV show or two TV shows, whether it's speakers, whether it's a show, whether it's what you're doing, whether it's a support, I feel like there is a shift, and it's been happening since Standing Rock.
I totally agree with that, and there's so many different ways you can show up. There's so many different causes to be making a stand for, and there's the front line is in many different ways you can show up. And what's most important, I think, is that we remember that we have a voice. And when you talk about, holding space, I think when it comes to the political perspective is that we can also not only run for office. If we're not about that, Robert, we can learn how to be delegates. And so I'm looking at our work with the Native Peoples Caucus of the Minnesota DFL. We're going to have some educational webinars and stuff going out, showing our relatives how they can hold those spaces, because again, that's part of our civic engagement. We don't want them to just come find us on November 3rd and say, hey, we'll be your voice, and forget about us. I think it's important as Native communities that we teach our fellow relatives how do you run or how do you be a delegate? Because you know what, Robert? I had no clue to the politics at all until there was a webinar, or not a webinar, but a teaching here in Bemidji, and I went, and that's how I got involved. And we've come a long way, and I just want to encourage our relatives and our non-Native allies that align with our values to run and find out how to be a delegate in your community, because I think it's important that we show up in all kinds of different ways, not just to vote. We need to use those voices, and we need to hold these politicians' feet to the fire in a good way.
Wow, well said.
It's up to us, Robert.
It is. It's that old saying, I always wondered when somebody was going to do something about it, and then I realized I'm somebody. So let's ignite all you people out there that are listening. Reach out to Nancy's group, MN350, support Nancy's group. There's a lot of stuff going on, and the shift is happening right now. Don't you agree, Nance?
I do. And, like I said, this is our time in history that we awaken and remind all of our local, state, federal politicians that, treaties do matter and brown lives matter, and we are the seeds that they couldn't destroy, and that we're starting to flourish now, and we're going to do that in a beautiful, powerful way. And this is the work that we do at Minnesota 350, and I want to give a shout out to 350 for opening up the door to the treaty work, because again, we couldn't do this on our own. There's no tribe that's going to throw us money and say, hey, fight us back. And it takes money to fight power. Unfortunately, that's the way it is in a colonized world. But you know what? We're here, and we're finding supportive organizations that are supporting our work financially with their skills, with their resources. And I think we got a good thing going here. When I talk about treaty relationships, Native and non-Native, 350 has created that space, and I look forward to going into the future and what that looks like. And right now, we thought we were going to have a 1 hour meeting. It's going into the 2nd hour meeting. So we're talking some good treaty business here, Robert.
Well, Nancy, I know you got to get going, and we're wrapping up the segment here. And we really appreciate you stopping in, checking in. It's always very powerful. And we support you and really, really appreciate you coming on. And also, we appreciate your art, because we know at Native Roots Trading Post that your stuff is well loved and it's almost sold out. So whenever you can re-up some stuff and some of that beautiful soap you make, I'd appreciate that.
It'll be in the mail tomorrow, Robert. Some fresh suds are on the way. So miigwech for promoting my work. I appreciate that.
Hey, we'll be right back after this short break.
Hey, Ogama, I've been hearing a lot about this term climate justice. What is that?
Climate justice is recognizing that the negative impacts of climate change don't affect all people equally. It also means transitioning from a fossil fuel-based economy to a more sustainable future. MN350 is one of the groups that's pushing for this transition to protect our futures. You can even get involved too.
That's great, especially since I'm concerned about pipeline projects like Line 3. How can I help MN350?
Just find them on Facebook or visit mn350.org.
Hamidakiapi, Ruben Amakiapi, Gamaza Aditi Hemie. I'm Ruben and I'm a recording artist. COVID cases are still high in Indian country. Even if you're a younger person, you're still at risk for getting COVID or spreading it to friends, family, elders, teachers, and classmates. Right now, anyone over the age of 12 is eligible for a COVID vaccine. The vaccines will protect you from severe illness and make it much less likely that you'll spread COVID to others. Plus, there's more great reasons to get vaccinated. All Minnesota teens between ages of 12 to 17 that completed their 2-dose vaccine series in 2021 are eligible to enter a drawing for a $100,000 college scholarship. So protect yourself and others by getting vaccinated. You may even win some cash or a college scholarship. Find a vaccination site by calling 651-304-9986 or visit vaccineconnector.mn.gov. Get vaccinated and don't miss this great opportunity for a college scholarship. 651-304-9986 or visit vaccineconnector.mn.gov.
Hey, Cudahy to all my friends and relatives in 4 directions. This is Robert Pilot of Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake. I'm here to ask you for your support. Finding honest Native-centered news is not easy. But with your support, we're able to provide accurate information about Standing Rock, Line 3, treaty violations, and COVID-19 in our Native communities. Please visit Native Roots Radio Network on Patreon and donate if you can. That's Native Roots Radio Network on Patreon. Pinigigi, and thank you for your support.
Bonjour, I am Oshawashko Gijig. I'm from Red Lake Nation, and you're listening to Native Roots Radio.
Welcome back to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake.
This portion of the show is brought to you by Howling for Wolves, protecting wolves for future generations. Ooh.
Hey, Wendy, there's somebody that's coming to the door here soon, but in the meantime, let's talk a little bit native sacred animal stuff. Do you have anything for us tonight?
I do. I actually do. I just want everyone to know that my name is Hanaji Hihani, and that means cares for them. And I was given that name by my Dega Curtis. So as always, Curtis, thank you so much for that meaningful name. It means a lot to me. Curtis's Native American name is Mashke Hanajinga, which means walks on white clouds. I'm a humane policy volunteer leader for the Humane Society of the United States, and I work on animal issues at the local and state level. And it's always my pleasure to work on things to help animals, all animals, not just our furry friends that we share our houses with, but all different kinds of animals. And like you mentioned earlier, Robert, our sacred wolf, and we always will work very hard to do that. Howling for Wolves has been one of our most loyal and longest sponsors on Native Roots Radio, and we really appreciate that. So I just wanted to say that. But I was kind of looking around today for something to talk about, and I usually like to keep things light and happy most of the time. So that's what I'm going to be doing today. And I see for those of you watching on Facebook, Robert has our little dog Wanda on his lap. And I really, really love her so much. You know, sometimes, I've had pets my whole life, and some of them, not that I love them more than the other, but some you just connect to a little bit better or differently, or it's more intense. So Wanda is a very intense connection to me, and I love her. But I wanted to talk about things that dogs hate that we do on a regular basis. So I just wanted to bring that up because I always want to make sure that I'm doing the right thing and not annoying our dog. And I just have to say, after reading this article, I'm pretty much annoying Wanda a lot. So I really have to change things up. But first, what I want to do is say that I read in a different article that when you get a puppy, and you're not training your puppy correctly, or if you're changing the behavior of the dog after it gets old, like say you have like a 10-pound puppy and the puppy's jumping all over you and you allow that behavior, when the dog is a 40 or 50-pound dog and the dog is jumping and jumping all over you, and then you go to correct the dog will get confused. So you have to train your puppy as if it is a full-grown dog, and I didn't really realize that. But it confuses the dog and it causes problems. So we always had little dogs, so we really never had to worry about that. But I remember when I was a kid, I had a St. Bernard. His name was Mr. Bojangles. And, of course, when he was little, we always wanted him to like jump on the couch and be with us and sit with us. But when he was 120 pounds and he did that, that became a problem. So when we told him to get down, he was kind of like, what do you mean? I've been doing this, all this time, and now you're correcting me. It says here in the article, the way you want your adult dog to act is how you should train it as a puppy. And it kind of makes sense, right? And they don't really like being left on their own a lot. And we already know that most dogs don't want to be left alone. But I don't want people to think that if they have an 8-hour job a day, that they can't have a dog, because I think most dogs kind of just get used to like the rhythm of the house. I call it the heartbeat of the house and how the routine is. And dogs can very easily just get used to that type of routine, but they don't want to be left for very, very long periods of time. And I think that some dogs, not all dogs, but some dogs will get a lot of anxiety. And some dogs could also become destructive. So know your pet and how long you can leave them before that, they would get anxious or scared. A lot of dog people want to bring their dogs to parades, want to bring their dogs to watch the fireworks. We've seen, Robert, years past where we've gone to parades and we've gone to see fireworks, that people bring their dogs. These are not the places to bring your dogs. Most dogs during those loud, scary places get loose. They get loose, they run away. And actually, the 4th of July is the time of year when the most dogs go missing. So keep your dog at home, keep them safe and cool in a nice spot. When the owner is tense and stressed, the dog can sense those. The dogs can sense those stress hormones that we all exude. And, your dog will become stressed because you're stressed. So you want to really be careful of not trying to be so stressed around your dog unless it is a trained therapy dog. And I see we have somebody in the house. We have.
Hello.
Hi there.
I'm trying my hardest to be friends with your little friends here.
Just put them on your lap and you'll be fine. Go ahead, Robert.
We're with Representative Heather Keeler, and she's dropping by some art for Native. What's the name of the
Native Roots Trading Post, 700 Nicollet Mall in Minneapolis. We're on the first floor of the Dayton's building, so come on down. What kind of art are you dropping off?
Well, it's one of the artists that I've really fell in love with on the Powwow Trail. To me, it's a lot about the story of the artist. And what I really appreciate about Bill is he shares a really vulnerable part of his life with his journey with his wife and cancer, and putting that into his work and seeing the beauty in that and sharing that with our communities. I think it's so powerful. But he's also an artist that doesn't just show up on the Powwow Trail. He was in Fargo at a big vendor. And I think that that's part of this cultural healing that we do just across Turtle Island in general. And I was just listening to Nancy on the phone on the way here talking about treaties and that we're all treaty people. And I think our art shares a lot of that. And so it was really nice to be able to connect that artist with this opportunity, and then just being basically the delivery person to be able to bring it here and say hi to y'all.
Yeah, Wendy's in New York. You didn't know that. She's at a condo there in New York by the ocean, and she's visiting our relatives that had a little baby, and she's gonna. Now that she's retired, she can do stuff like that.
Of
right,
course,
Wendy?
the time I come over, you're not.
I'm a great auntie now, so I'm going to my niece's tomorrow. Her husband just went back to work, so she's alone with a 3-week-old, and I'm going to help her.
Oh, that's so nice that you can do that. Like, that's
Yeah.
so relational, right? Like, that's what we do as our community and as our people. And so I love that you have the opportunity to do that.
Yeah, I am too. I'm so happy.
I don't think Wendy heard you when you said the only time you come here.
Yeah, you're gone. I have vegan snacks here and treats.
And I've been gone for a few days, so I can't even tell you what the house must look like. So I apologize.
It's perfectly
Oh, I don't know. She's apologizing ahead of time. But yeah, so it's exciting. You know, we have State Representative Heather Keeler here, and this has just been an awesome show, and we got a minute left. And so do you have any last words before I end the show?
I'm just going to highlight what Nancy said. You know, Nancy does a ton of work in this community and in this state, and treaty responsibilities and treaty rights are really the foundation of the work that we all need to do. So I just mimic everything that she said, and Pilame for the work that her and her group does, and just continue to stay engaged in all the levels.
Wendy, you got 30 seconds. End the show.
I'm here in New York, and I miss you, Robert, and I really, really miss Wanda, and I miss Lucy and Gracie also, my family.
Wow, Pinigigi, we miss you too. If you're listening to the show, you were part of the resistance. We're still here. We are the 7th generation.
Free Leonard Peltier. Stop line 3. Please get vaccinated. For too long, American Indian tribes have faced a competitive